Welcome to Slice of Lyme, a podcast by and for Lyme warriors, where we share truth, resilience, and hope, one episode at a time. We are not doctors, and this is not medical advice, just real stories and what's worked for us on our own journeys. Today's episode is brought to you by TickMit. This eco-friendly and non-toxic reusable glove helps to find and remove loose ticks from pets and yourself. If you're hiking, walking, or just hanging out outside, TickMit is a must. Use code SLICE, S-L-I-C-E, for 10% off. Today, we're excited to take on a listener question from Sophie on Facebook about how Lyme has impacted running. And so we're going to talk about that as well as exercising as a whole, because it definitely impacts us when we have Lyme. I'm Bebe, and I celebrated my remission by hiking across Portugal and Spain last year. And I am joined by my incredible co-host, Abby, who is not only a marathon runner, but she's also a trail running, martial arts loving, yogi, line dancing powerhouse. She's truly one of the most inspiring and active people I know, and I'm incredibly grateful to have her here today. Abby, how are you?
I'm good. I'm covering my laugh because if you saw all the line dancing videos, there's a reason the line dancing videos are not on TikTok. Because for the record, Thursday was my first time going, and I had no idea what anybody was doing, but I just was having fun. So.
I mean, that's what matters, is that you have fun. I saw your little video out there and I was like, yeah, get it, girl.
Oh, yeah, I did put one up there.
You
I mean,
did.
kids get shuffled. You can't. I mean, come on. I can't mess that one up. I'm 29.
You had your cute little skirt on and your Slice of Lyme shirt, which, by the way, we go check out our Etsy store. We just got that up and running. We've got our mug here.
Yes, for the record, I love the tank top because it's spandexy material, and it was like 90 degrees when we were line dancing, and the tank top was just perfect. So, but yes, I would not call myself a line dancer. I was on the dance floor doing something to the music. But if there's movement involved and music, I'm there for sure. I love it. So.
I mean, our bodies have to move and our souls need the music to actually, I mean, our bodies need movement to heal from Lyme, which is why we're talking about this today too.
Yeah, I agree. I think movement is medicine. It's been so helpful for me. I think you and I have stories of coming from being bedbound to achieving certain goals. And so I don't know where we should start because I feel like there's so much to cover. Give me your thoughts.
Well, let's start at the very good beginning.
You're in the hot seat.
I will take the hot seat first. Prior to 2020, which is really when I started experiencing a lot of symptoms, I was a marathon runner, and that was my way of getting rid of stress in the corporate life. Like, I would take conference calls and I would just be on those training runs. And I had done a handful of marathons at one point. I had just finished the New York City marathon and was training for another one that was a few months out. And a guy ran a stop sign, hit me, flipped under the car, over the car. It was a complete mess. The doctors initially thought that my foot was completely broken and they were going to have some major surgery that day, but it ended up that everything was actually fine. No major bones broken, but I was stuck in a boot for about 6 months. And you can imagine the trauma that brings. And that's when I started experiencing double vision as some of my symptoms. So that was really the moment that I kind of stopped running. I was still exercising. I was still doing like Pilates. I was still going to the gym, still doing HIIT workouts. But then when I became absolutely bedridden, really in 2020, 2021, I lost all hope. When you're a runner and you pretty much thrive off of that runner's high for your mental stability and just your day, it's like your day-to-day drug. It's your life at that point, and you completely lose it. You don't know what to do. I started turning a bit to yoga, but yoga was hard. I don't know. Did you herx at all when you started with yoga, when you were treating Lyme or doing anything? Because even just 5 minutes of light yoga would just knock me down. And so I would try to do 5 minutes of that. If I didn't herx that day, I would add in a couple of minutes extra the next day. And then I would try to add in a little bit of walking here and there. I lived at the beach at this time, and I was on the second row, and it was all I could do to just walk from my house out to put my feet on the sand. And over the course of a few months, I started adding in an extra block, maybe once a week or so. And I got to the point that I was able to barely walk from 5 minutes to I was able to get in a couple of miles a day. I am the type of person, especially being like a marathon runner, I really like to have a goal to look forward to. Like, I like to sign up for that race. It's like something that I need to also keep me going and keep me motivated. And as I started healing, I realized that walking is really good for me. Being out in nature is really good for me. I just turned 40 years old. And as I was getting into my upper 30s and this healing thing, I realized that running, yes, it gives me that natural runner's high and I really love it, but running may not be the best thing for my nervous system. It may not be the best thing for my joints and my bones. And so I've decided that walking is it. And I had learned about the Camino de Santiago, which is a pilgrimage across Europe. And it ends in Spain. And people go for all kinds of different reasons. You can go for spiritual reasons. You can go for the biblical reasons. I mean, that's how it all started because it was a pilgrimage. A lot of people go when they're going through changes in their life. So if you're quitting a job or if you're grieving, like the loss of a parent, the loss of a pet, there's all sorts of different things that take people out there. But I got called to go out there, and it was my celebration, and it was also my goal to be able to give myself that mental thing, you know, of getting up every day. And I've got this thing to look forward to. I'm going to be traveling to Portugal and Spain. I'm going to be walking across all these cities and meeting people and hiking up mountains, and I need to have this energy. So I got to the point that I was at about 85% better on my Lyme journey. And I hired a personal trainer, and she is someone that had also worked in the older community. She knew a little bit more about what to do with these, I guess, illnesses that we have and how to work with our limitations. Because I didn't want to go back to the gym the way that I used to, the way that I used to go to hit and overdo my body. And so I would go see her about 3 or 4 times a week, as well as adding in my walks. And every single week I would add in an hour, 30 minutes to an hour of walking time. And I was able to get up to the point that I was walking 5 to 6 hours a day. Now, I know that that's like not your normal, that's for training for the Camino. But I got over to Portugal and I hiked across Portugal and Spain. I'd say I averaged around 12 to 15 miles a day. I walked for about 250 miles. I met so many people, and I'm training to go back again. I thought I was going to go back this September, but it's looking like I'm kind of changing it up again. But after I accomplished this Camino, and you're carrying your own backpack. So everything that you've got, like, it's not just like you're walking, you're carrying all of your belongings with you. And I went through this transformation, and I got the confidence to know that yes, I can live day to day, and my body can handle exercise. And it's this thing that you have to relearn in your brain. And after that trip, I didn't really know what I was going to do, but that walk and that hike gave me the confidence to then continue on and travel through other countries for the next few months and live in other places for a little while. And it's been a journey.
Yeah. Oh, I have chills. I have chills. I love that. And I think that going out there just sounds so deeply empowering. Like it feels like spiritual on so many levels.
Oh, absolutely. It's so you stop in to these, there are different churches and chapels all along the way, and you go in and you pray. And even if you're not like a religious or spiritual person, you're going in, you're going to these churches and you're just like feeling the history around you. And yeah, it was incredibly eye opening. And it's what helped me also realize that I had been living in the city. And by walking through all of these towns, I learned that my body does better in smaller towns. And that's what helped me realize that I want to move to a small mountain town. And that's why I'm here today.
Wow. Okay. What? So why did you pick that specific trail? Because here in the U.S. we've got like the Appalachian Trail and the Pacific Crest Trail and all of that stuff, but you picked something like big and far away.
Yeah. So the trails here are very different from the trails over there. So we've got like the Appalachian Trail here, which you're hiking with your backpack, but you're camping, like you're putting up your tent and you're like cooking out of a little fire stove. So on the Camino Trail, you're going from albergue, which is which is a hostel for pilgrims. And so you have a bed, and you can also, you can pre-book and you can stay in the private albergues and get a room to yourself instead of having to stay in a room with a bunch of people. And because, it was my first trip and chronic illness, I did the private rooms. But a lot of times you get dinner that comes along with the places. And so, you're going to go maybe an hour from city to city. You're never really stuck in the middle of nature for a long time without worrying about when you're going to get to your next bathroom, when you're going to get to your next restaurant. So you know that you've got everything accessible, and it kind of helps at least put my system at ease knowing that it's safer out there and you're never truly alone. Now, I've never done the Appalachian Trail. It is on my list of things to do. But I know like when you're out at the PNW or you're on the Appalachian Trail, you are alone out there. And I wasn't out there to be alone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I made it 11 days on the Appalachian Trail in 2021. And I just like, how do I even start this story? Because this is not the topic I was thinking. Well, we'll go through this super quick, I promise. But like in 2021, I quit my job. And somebody who had never camped, was like, I'm going to go hike the AT and like do some soul searching. Because I left a really horrible job, a really tough job. And I bought all this gear and I hopped on the AT. It's actually, there's a trailhead like 30 minutes from my house. And so I was like, I'll hop on the AT, I'll go north, and then I'll hop on the AT from where I started and then go south. And I got on the AT and the first night I was like, well, I'm so close to home. I'm just going to go back home and go to sleep. And so like, I kept doing that. Like, and eventually I was like a good distance from the house and you're like paying to get like, drive the car and then get picked up and like go back. And, so I was like, okay, I got to start sleeping in the woods. And, the first night, which was my last night out there, my last night and day out there, I guess, this when I decided to call it quits. I was like, all right, I'm going to sleep out here. I had made some friends on the trail. So, I wasn't alone. I was with, two men, one from Maryland and one from, I don't remember. But anyways, we became good friends. And so we pitched our tents and everything was fine. And like in the middle of the night, I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. So I'm in the middle of the woods on the AT and I got out of my tent and I picked up my satellite phone, my cell phone, my flashlight and I walked I was like, I think I'm gonna find the road eventually. And so I was walking through the middle of the woods at night and I'm like texting my husband, I was like, I'm done, like come get me. And my flashlight died. And so then I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know where I was going. I eventually found the road and I hitchhiked home in the middle of the night.
Oh my God. At least you're still here. Congratulations. You made a serial killer on the road. So have you ever actually spent the night on the AT?
The whole night? No, absolutely not.
Oh, it's my goal to get out there. So maybe, I don't know if you're very trustworthy one to ask to be like, hey, can you come out on my first night? But maybe we should try this together.
Yeah, I would definitely give it another go. 2021 was just a hard year all around and like my mental health was pretty poor. And I think just like being in the tent in the woods in the middle of the night, like it's just like all around, it was not a good fit for me. At some point, I would love to do it before I die, but like probably timing and like mental stability are going to be very important if I were to try it again.
That's like 2021. That's when you started having a lot of issues, right? Or
so in 2019, I feel like I was at peak health, to be honest. Like I ran probably like 5 half marathons and then I ran a full marathon that March, that April, and that October. So I was like working all day long. I'd come home and I would run, and it just was like this rhythm I fell into that just felt really, really good for me. My symptoms, like I've said before, started in mid 2019. And it's the leg tingling and things like that were just kind of annoying. My vertigo started in 2020. And when that started, I continued to run, but I would have what I would call a guide runner, and I would have someone run a couple feet in front of me at the exact pace I wanted to run. So I would have to find someone very experienced who could match. Like if I'd be like, oh, a 9-minute mile or whatever, I had to find someone who could match what I was looking for that day.
how do you find someone that does that?
So we have a running community in our area. It's a road running community. And so we meet up. Well, I haven't gone in a long time, but they meet up on Wednesday evenings. And so I would go there and find somebody who was running in the like pace-ish that I wanted to run. So even if it was like a minute to, whatever, a little bit off, I would still say like, can I run directly behind you? Because if all I had to do was look at their feet, I didn't have to look at the traffic. I didn't have to look at the people we were passing. I didn't have to pay attention to like stoplights and crosswalks and all of that. Just trusting that they were paying attention, I wouldn't have vertigo. But when I would run alone and you have to, like you're scanning like everything, right? You're scanning your entire environment. I would get dizzy and I would have to like crouch down and like touch the ground and, like reorient my body. So, I had people who were running in front of me and I would just kind of trust them. I went on during the pandemic to continue to run. And then I ran, gosh, it's hard to keep up with. I ran a full marathon and a 50K, which is 31.1 miles, in October of 2020. And then in 2021, I started to just become kind of exercise intolerant. Like my body felt very heavy. I felt fatigued. I had injury. I was working with a running coach and I just kept getting injured. I had shin splints, calf strains, plantar fasciitis, like all of these things we couldn't make sense of. And my mile time just kept getting longer and longer and longer while my rate of perceived exertion kept going higher and higher. So like the things were not adding up.
And you're not at the age where that should be happening either at all, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm currently 29. So in 2020, I was 24. So like it didn't make sense. And then that fall I ran a virtual marathon and, we still, if I remember correctly, we had the option to pick in person or virtual, and a lot of us picked virtual, and we went to this, like old railway turned walking, hiking, running, biking trail. There was no cell service out there. A bunch of us got together to do the virtual marathon. And I was just going to keep up. I was walking. I was trying really hard. I was just so exhausted. It felt like I was running in ankle deep sand. Like, that's the best way to put it. Like, no matter what I did, it was just super, super difficult. And I was at mile 22 and I hadn't urinated yet, which is so strange for me. Typically, like, this is probably TMI, but like, I'm the kind of person that like I'll pee right before I run, and then like right when I start running, I have to pee again. And it's like because things are just moving, you know?
Yeah.
Mile 22, I was like, I'm gonna like try to pee. Like, this is weird. So I went to the restroom on the trail we were running on. Nothing. Then I came back out and I just kind of knew like something was off. And so I was like, well, let's keep running. And I say running very loosely again because it's like walking, jogging, like really bothersome. Like it didn't make sense. And my vision started to go black. And I felt like I lost feeling starting in my feet, and it just kind of crept up through my legs. And I knew what was happening, right? So I hit the ground.
And you didn't have self-service, right?
No self-service. Yeah,
Not
no
good.
self-service. Yeah. So I don't think I was that long. I think it was a few seconds. And I hopped back up because I was so terrified, right? Like you're on this like rail trail thing with no cell service. I hopped back up so quickly that I ended up pulling my MPFL, which is the ligament that, or the tendon. Well, I don't know the difference. I'm not a physical therapist. Something that holds your kneecap in place. I ended up spraining it, or pulling it, whatever, because I jumped up so quickly. And so I'm like, I have to get back to the car. And so I hit the ground probably 2 or 3 more times before getting back to the car. And I just knew something was wrong. By the time I got back to the car, I was at like, I don't know, 23.5 or 24 miles. And I was like, I could just like crawl like 2.2 more miles and it would be fine. Like, I kept thinking like I could just finish it and it would be okay. I did not finish it.
No.
For the record, I took the dropout. And it just felt like from there, I wasn't diagnosed with Lyme at the time. So like for me, I was like, I guess I'm just done with running. Like I have to give up. But then when I got my diagnosis and I had a better picture of what was going on, like I was better able to work through that. But it's so confusing because like hindsight's 2020, right? I was working with a physical therapist for the NPFL strain pool thing. And we were working to get me like back on my feet, and he'll like get that situated, go running, whatever. And then in 2022, my symptoms got bad again. But they were worse this time. I was like very heat intolerant, very exercise intolerant, fatigued, POTS, like bedbound on and off. I was using a wheelchair as needed, and I was still seeing the same physical therapist. And so we switched our programming from healing the NPFL strain or recovering that to like isometric exercises in bed. Right? It's like that's a huge difference. Going from I got injured to running a marathon to like give me like exercises how I can just like clench my muscles and still use them while I'm bedbound.
I mean, and you were in a wheelchair. That's mentally disrupting too. When you were going from running to doing all of that, that's got to be very hard.
Yeah, it was super difficult, and super hard to cope with. And shout out to my physical therapist, Justin, because we've been through a lot together. But when I started to go through treatment, gosh, again, the timeline is so tough. So yes, wheelchair, kind of bedbound, really having a hard time. I believe I started truly running again in 2023, in the spring of 2023. And I would put the wheelchair in the car. My husband and I would drive to the track. And then I would walk a lap. And then we had the chair there if we needed it. I wasn't using it all the time. I was only using it when I would flare, but I knew that I was going to start pushing my body. So I'm like, I'd rather have it here and not need it than like need it and not have it. And so,
And
go
it
ahead.
probably provides you a bit of a safety purpose too. And if you're doing it at a track instead of just like walking a mile straight away, just do you put it like in the middle of the field so you can access it easily? Or is your husband there to just like go run and pick it up quickly if you need it? What did you do there?
Yeah, so if the most of the time he would walk with me when I first started again. And so he would know like if things were going well. But we just started off with one lap. And then we'd pack everything back up and we'd go back to the house. And then the next week I would do 2 laps. And so I started saying if I can do one, then I can do two. And if I can do two, then I can do three. And so on and building from there. And then I was like, okay, if I can walk 8 laps around the track, I should be able to run at least one of those. And so then, right, I went back to Justin and I said, like, you're a physical therapist of mine. Here's what I think I can do. And he would say, like, here's how you get your body warmed up. Here's the data you need to be tracking. And here's how you need to cool down to make sure you're not stressing your system. And we, before all that, we had been doing like strength workouts and the isometric exercises and things like that. So we changed the plan that we were working on, and he was having me track data, focus on how my body was feeling, and build super slowly from there. So I built
Are,
from there.
are there any key points that you have that like that he said like listen to your body? Are there any points that you have for our listeners that they should listen to for when to stop and say, all right, now's my time to break?
Yes, I'm a data nerd, so I keep track of things like uh so I have a watch. Um this is a Coros. I mean anything that tracks your sleep and your heart rate would be fine, but I look at my heart rate variability, which is the variation in time between heartbeats, which can tell you like how stressed your body is. So if your watch tracks your HRV and it's high, it means your body is in a relaxed state. If your HRV is normal, then it's normal, right? And if it's low, that means your body's under stress. So if my HRV was low, then I wasn't pushing it. I was looking at my resting heart rate. So that's how many times your heart beats when you're at rest, which can tell you like if your body's under stress or if you're fatigued or fighting an illness, or poor sleep can even impact it, or stress. And so if my HRV was low and my resting heart rate was high, I definitely was not training. And then we also looked at heart rate zones. So I was training based on heart rate. And so heart rate zones are ranges based on your age. It's so much information. Ranges based on age. So it's 220 minus your age. So for me, it would be 29. And that is your maximum heart rate. And then your zones, zone 1 through 5, are based on that maximum heart rate number. My goal was to always train in zone 2 while I was going through this thing.
Why is there a reason that you train in zone two?
So zone 2 is 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. And it is meant for like building endurance without taxing your system. So it's supposed to not be overstressing your body. It's supposed to be kind of like moving without doing too much, or moving without moving too hard. So like zone 5 would be your ultimate, like you're running short bursts and sprints and maximum effort. So zone 2 is pretty low. Like zone 1 is kind of where you are when you're walking.
So zone two is probably a really good place for people to go into when they're first starting to try to get back into that movement or when you're really in the throes of fighting Lyme, right?
Yeah. And I still hang out in zone 2 a lot when I run because it feels comfortable. I'm not sore, or as sore when I'm in zone 2. If you're pushing to like your anaerobic levels, you're pushing hard. And I run for fun. I don't see a reason to like push to max effort or push until I'm huffing and puffing or throwing up or whatever. Like I'm here for a good time. And so I'm fine doing, I would say like typically I'm zone 2, zone 3 when I'm running.
I'm a former marathon runner and I did some of the zone runnings and I hated zone 2 running because that's when you're going slow and you gotta like really, you gotta slow down. Do you have any tips maybe for people that like me or those that want to beat their PRs and or just, hey, you got Lyme, you gotta slow down?
Yeah. I think heart rate running for me is a lot like the long game. So if we back up a little bit, when I was doing this training stuff in 2023, it took a long time to see my body adapt to zone 2. And I full disclosure, like when I was running, when I was really sick and struggling, my mile times were like 15-minute miles, right? Like before that, I won a 5K in 21 minutes and some change, right? So like before getting sick, I was busting them out. And then my mile times basically doubled when I was sick. So then when I was doing zone 2, I was retraining my system to like get used to the movement. And I could see on the days when I wanted to push it, which I didn't do until I was much further in recovery, that I was reaping the benefits of that I was running faster with less of like less effort, less taxing of the system. So zone 2 or zone, how do I want to say this? Heart rate running in my eyes is like for the long game. So you're running slow or now so that you can run faster or perform better later.
Yeah, yeah. So eyes on the prize and have patience, I guess, which isn't the strong suit for me. But
Yeah, I used to joke with my running friends like, um, I'm here for a good time, or gosh, what did I used to say?
here for a long time, not a good time.
Yes, I'm here for a long time, not a good time, right? And like I
I
would
mean,
just
that's
suffer through it, and I'm like, it's not a good time, but I'm here for it. Like hours later, it's no big deal.
you just swap it up. I love that.
Yes,
That's great.
yes. And that was just like my motto. And so like in 2023, I was building from there. So I was lifting under the guidance of Justin. I was running under his guidance, and I eventually joined a women's kickboxing class. And I felt really good and really strong. And then I started I was building from there. I got back up to like 13 or so miles. And then I ended up doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu as well. And so I was like stacking all of these things. I was like moving my body, walking about 3 miles a day, doing the running, alternating between the running and the Jiu Jitsu, throwing in the weightlifting when I felt like it, probably pushing it more than I should have. And then I had the mold exposure again in 2024. So I had symptoms come back up, and I really struggled this time to let go of the exercise, right? I was like, I spent so much time rebuilding again. I'm not letting it go. And so I would run sprints and like be having adrenaline dumps, like just having a horrible time, right? Not here for not a good time. It was a horrible time. And I would do it anyways, or I would do jujitsu and I'd be like rolling in positions and like the world is spinning. I like felt like I was going to throw up. I actually competed in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, like at the beginning of my detox.
You don't stop, do you?
It was right when I found out my numbers were super high. And so I made a big mistake. I put a castor oil pack on like a Thursday or a Tuesday or something. And I was like, competition Saturday, I'll be good. Castor oil pack made me herx. I was herxing so bad before the jiu-jitsu tournament that I went to urgent care
Oh no.
and got a shot of Toradol in my arm to help the pain. Went and competed in 3 5-minute rounds, and then had to rest. I was like, I was walking off the mat at my last competition, at my last round, last match, whatever the word is. And I looked at my coach and I was like, I'm going to pass out. And like, I don't remember.
Did you pass out for like 6 days after that?
Well, like, I don't remember. That was the last thing I said to him. And then one of our gym members who was a nurse, I remember she was standing over me and I was wearing my husband's sunglasses and I was laying on the floor. And I was so confused. Like, so yes, I had a really hard time giving up exercise again, even when I knew I was detoxing. And that has been a huge wake up call for me. So like right now, I'm only running maybe a mile at a time right now.
Okay.
Still, walking about 3 or so every day, every other day. So again, I'm going back to these data points. How's my HRV? How is my resting heart rate? How is my sleep? And if all of these things are off, I'm hunkering down. I'm not doing anything. I might do arts and crafts and like some stretching. If one is off a little bit, maybe I'll do yoga. If none of them are off, maybe I will do a little run and some weightlifting. And so right now, everything I'm doing is just very data based, and I'm tracking and being mindful and checking in. If I ran 1 mile yesterday, do I feel anxious today? Or how do I tune in with my body to feel the impact of what I'm doing?
I think that that's amazing advice to give out, is really listening to your body. And there are multiple ways to track HRV. You've got that watch, there's the Aura Ring. I don't know if Apple Watch does it quite yet. Are there any other suggestions for tracking these different types? There's the whoosh. I don't know one of the.
I know what that is. Whoop, there it is.
Tag team. Check it.
I mean, I don't know how else to track HRV. I would seriously find, like, if I could do it all over again, I would find somebody like Justin, my physical therapist, who I swear up and down is the reason that I did not just totally like write off exercise. Like, he met me where I was every single time I went in to meet with him, and he just instilled so much hope and so many resources for me that I felt like I could do it. And so if you are struggling, I would say find a physical therapist who knows about chronic illness. Justin knew about mold. Justin knew about POTS. Like, he's a very intelligent guy. If you're looking at data tracking for HRV, like a watch or a ring, talk to your doctor. Like, they might have a suggestion on other ways to track it. Resting heart rate, you can count yourself. Just be sure you're paying attention. It's kind of hard to do it. Like, I don't like doing it with my fingers, but like, I just lose track of, like, I like watching the time, counting. There's too much happening.
So Abby, it sounds, from what I'm hearing, you've actually been able to do a really good job at keeping your body moving throughout the entire time, even when you've been in a wheelchair, even when you've been bedbound. And I commend you for that. I know that I had a really hard time. I went for marathon running and was stuck in bed and in a really dark place because I couldn't move. And at one point, even yoga was causing me to herx. And you have to just massively slow down and really listen to your body. And for those that can't get out and don't have maybe that extra energy, or I don't know what you've got in you that has been able to get that fire going, because I feel like a lot of us may not have that. It's okay that you don't have that, but remember that movement is very important. And I mean, at first, when I first started healing, I couldn't walk a block, and it was going out and just walking half of the block, turning around and going back home and sitting and crying and complaining about it. And then the next day, maybe trying a little bit longer and listening to the body. And I was able to get back into yoga. Even to this day, when I'm scared sometimes to go to yoga classes because I remember the herxing that it would cause. And so if I haven't been to yoga in a while, I will start with like a 20-minute class and work my way up to an hour. And I think it might be more of a mental thing for me now at this point. But if you're trying to do yoga, if you're trying to walk, really listen to your body. If you're herxing after you're done walking or doing yoga, cut back a couple of minutes the next day that you do it, but try not to give up and keep going, keep getting that sunlight, keep getting that exercise in, and you will get there. And I do have, Abby, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about today, before we go in to give our advice to close out the episode?
Yeah, I think my disclaimer is there's been I'm still learning this to this day when it's time to let go and let go of the expectations, let go of the step count, let go of the, well, I did 3 miles yesterday, and just hunker down for as long as my body needs to. The last like 3 or 4 weeks have been super, super difficult, super stressful for me. I honestly haven't run in the last 3 or 4 weeks because it's not where my body is. It's not where it is. I'm doing like short walks. I will walk a little up to like the guardrail near my house and turn around. I've been doing some walking on the treadmill, like knowing when to let go and knowing you can return to these things. So this sounds like a little bit of advice, but it's just my disclaimer that like I haven't mastered this art yet, because every time I have to take a pause and say like running is not where I'm at, it's just what it is. Like that, it just is what it is right now. And I have to accept that. And there's a lot of grief that still comes with it every single time to like give up a hobby and say like, I identify as a runner. So running is part of my identity, and just saying like that part of me has to sit back for now. Like I have to hunker down. I have to be mindful. And I will never forget, in April of 2021, I was telling a running coach how I wanted to run 100 miles before I die, right? Like before I leave this earth, my goal is to run a 100-mile race. And a couple years later, gosh, I want to say in like 2024, 2023, 2024, maybe. I think it was 2023. I was talking to this running coach again. And we were talking about like my journey with Lyme. And she had Lyme as well, or she has Lyme as well. And we were talking about just kind of how tough it's been. And she laughed and she goes, do you remember when you thought you were going to run 100 miles? And I said, I still think that. I still firmly believe that that's something I can and I will do. And I was actually signed up for a 100-mile race in 2024. And it had nothing to do with the mold. It had nothing to do with my symptoms. Like I just didn't keep up. And so there are times where we just have to keep like pushing the goal back and pushing the goal back. But for somebody like a running coach to kind of make fun of that goal, like that is what has kept me motivated. It's not a matter of like, remember when you thought you were going to do it? Like before I die, I'm doing this. Like if I have to crawl, I'm doing it.
Yeah, just because we have Lyme and just because we're going through this doesn't mean that we have to give up on our goals by any means. It just may mean that we have to get there in a different direction.
Right. And it's kind of like with heart rate zone training, right? That the slowing down, the knowing when to let go, the knowing when to run in zone 2, all of that takes us to our bigger goal. Or the knowing when to do less yoga today takes us to the bigger goal of being able to do more tomorrow or more next week or more next year. And so I think that's just learning that like being here for the long game is what's important. And so if all I'm doing, let's say like right now we get off the podcast, if all I'm doing is rollerblading around for 10 or 15 minutes because that's where I feel like I'm at today, like that's also totally okay. The goal isn't going anywhere. I can return to it when I'm ready, right? Like I can return to maximum effort, sprints, like race pace, whatever, right? Like I can go back to those places when my body is ready. When it's time to hunker down, it's time to hunker down. When it's time to let go, it's time to let go. And when it's time to push, I will know when it's time to push.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And we have to kind of look at things a little bit differently, like when we're getting from point A to point B, and it's okay to add in new and different kinds of exercises too. Like if we were doing HIIT, we can switch it up and try Pilates and try yoga. I know that I'm getting ready to go try, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this, but a friend and I are going to go try Qigong.
Oh, I love Qigong. Yes, you're going to love it. You're going to love it.
Yeah. And so like I'm checking out different types of things to see if my body likes that because I mean, I was a former marathon runner and now that I've battled Lyme and I'm not in my 20s anymore. I just got into my 40s and I've realized that running is maybe not in my cards anymore. I can still run for like 1 to 3 miles, but I just personally don't enjoy the short runs. I enjoy the long runs because maybe I'm psychotic. I don't know. But I have learned that I've had to shift my thinking and now I go slower and I hike and I get my thrill from hiking. I get it from yoga. I still walk a lot and I'm trying out different activities and it shifts. But just because you have Lyme doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to run your 100-miler. And I'm going to be supporting you in the entire way.
Yes, thank you. I think that's so important though. Like we can do other things that can build us to whatever our long goal is, right? So like some of the things I do is like walking with a weighted vest or hiking or weightlifting or even like Pilates. Like all of that matters. And so it we just have to do what works for us. And I think that as someone who has Lyme disease, being open to the flexibility and the again like the ability to let go of the expectations is super important.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for today. We just left with some advice, so I don't think we need to leave with more advice. But
all the advice.
Advice upon advice upon advice over here. Well, thank you for joining us today, Abby, and thank you all for joining on your sides, and we appreciate you for listening. Thank you for tuning in to Slice of Lyme. We're here to remind you, you're not alone. Your story matters and healing is possible. Now be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. We'd love to hear from you, so send us your questions, stories, or topic suggestions by sliding into our DMs or emailing us at sliceoflymepodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, rest when you need to, speak your truth, and keep showing up for yourself.